Power doesn't have to equal wild, uncontrolled shots. The 11SIX24 Power series delivers on that. Offering more controllable power with a forgiving and user-friendly design, these are built for the everyday player seeking more power. Let's dive in. Hey, this is Braden with Pickleball Effect. Today we're reviewing and looking at the 11SIX24 Power series. This is their take on a Gen 3 style paddle. If you find my review helpful and decide to purchase one of these paddles at any point, then please use my code PBEffect on their website to get a discount and to support my channel. Thanks to 11SIX24 for sending me these paddles. However, this video is not sponsored by them, and the views and opinions expressed here are solely my own, with the intent to help you find the best paddle for your game. So these are power paddles, but not big power paddles. Some paddles on the market are more powerful. However, these offer a unique combination of forgiveness and approachable power, making them user-friendly and practical for a wider range of players. In today's review, I'll share how 11SIX24 made these paddles and do an on-court performance review. Then Aaron, the editor, will add his take and review at the end. Aaron edits most of my videos and receives the same paddles that I do so that he can shoot B-roll. We've talked paddles over the last year, and I've always really liked his perspectives and wanted to start including his take in some of my reviews. Additionally, I think that hearing more viewpoints is good and provides a more comprehensive look. Alright, let's look at how these paddles are made. These Gen 3 paddles have a single strip of widened EVA foam around the entire core, creating a floating core, as you can see in this X-ray. This is different from most other Gen 3 style paddles that have two types of foam stacked together, or those like the 11S series with a second layer of foam that doesn't cover the entire head like this X-ray shows. 11SIX24's design gives it a more consistent bounce and results in less power and pop versus the 11S style, because it reduces that diving board effect of the 11S build. You'll also notice a different coloration in the 11SIX24 X-ray on the sides next to the foam. This is some targeted weight to improve the sweet spot, and it works. All these paddles play very forgiving. The numbers on these paddles are also really good and interesting to me, so let's look at those for each shape. The series comes in three different shapes. You have the Hurache-X, which is an elongated shape paired with an extended 6-inch handle, the Vapor, which is a hybrid shape combined with a 5.75-inch handle, and the Pegasus, which is a wide body shape and is also combined with a 5.75-inch handle. All models are 16 millimeters thick. The twist weight measurements are all very high for their respective shapes. The hybrid Vapor has a measurement over 7, which I've only seen in the Honolulu J2 hybrid paddles before this. And then the wide body Pegasus has an absurdly high measurement of 7.6, and the elongated Hurache-X is 6.4, which is good, though not as crazy high as the other two shapes. And they all play very forgivingly like those numbers suggest. They achieve this with the addition of that targeted weight on the sides like I showed earlier in the X-ray. This extra weight does bump up the static weights of the paddles though, with the Vapor and the Pegasus coming in around 8.3 ounces and the Hurache-X around 8.1 ounces. Though the static weights are higher, the swing weight measurements are still very good and what you'd expect for these shapes. My units came in at 117 for the Hurache-X, 116 for the Vapor, and 111 for the Pegasus. I love this combination of a little extra static weight to improve forgiveness while keeping the swing weights in check. While the paddles feel a little heavier than their swing weights suggest, they were in a good place and I didn't feel a need to customize them with tungsten tape to improve forgiveness or to add plow through. This makes them very playable and user-friendly out of the box, which is great for the everyday player, though if you are someone who likes to tinker with different weight setups, then these probably aren't the best options for you since the static weights are higher to begin with. Alright, let's go put these on the court and see how they play. After 2 weeks of drilling and play, here are my thoughts on the paddle's performance. They have a moderately high power and medium pop profile, behaving like all court style paddles until activated with bigger strokes and added force. Initially they didn't feel like power paddles to me, but over time as they broke in, their top end power became more apparent and the pop subtly increased. This power does need to be activated though. They don't generate as much ball speed on their own as paddles like the Paddletech Bantams or the 11S series. While I've played several control style paddles with this activation aspect for increased all-court offense, I haven't played many that seamlessly transition between all-court and power play like these do. Additionally, all three models are very forgiving for their respective shapes. This combination of moderate power and forgiveness makes them a great power paddle option for a wider range of players. Because the paddles had medium pop, they are more controllable compared to paddles that have more immediate power. I never felt like the ball was jumping away from me unexpectedly or was surprised when I hit a ball long. It does have more pop and spring to it than a control paddle, so you need to do some work on your own to slow the ball down when you're stretched out or under pressure. I never felt out of control or thought they were difficult to dial in. The paddle's impact feel is semi-hollow. It's not as hollow of a feel as a YOLO 3S paddle, though it's not as dense feeling as a traditional thermoform paddle. It's somewhere in between those. It felt good and familiar to me, though it wasn't necessarily a draw or a setback of the paddle. Overall, I don't think you have to be a 5.0 player to dial these in. Maneuverability wise, they were in a good place and well balanced. They played a little heavier than their swing weight suggested due to their static weights being a bit higher than average, but they weren't too heavy and were certainly within reason. The plow through and inherent forgiveness provided by the higher static weights eliminated the need for additional weight or adjustments. Contrasting most power style paddles that require customization, I found these performed great right out of the box. Speaking to the shape options available, I consider the Vapor and Hurache-X shapes low-end power paddles, but would consider the Pegasus more of an all-court paddle, and wasn't terribly different from 11SIX24's Pegasus all-court paddle. The power produced from the widened foam around the edge favored the elongated designs more. The hybrid shape in particular was very forgiving for a hybrid, which makes it easy to pick up and play. The Hurache-X had a tighter sweet spot than the Vapor, though still good for an elongated paddle, and did have a higher power ceiling than the Vapor. So here's my recommendation. The paddle's good out-of-the-box play, combined with approachable power, good forgiveness, and multiple shape options make them attractive to a wide range of players seeking more power. It is a great option if you're transitioning from a control paddle to a power style paddle, or if you're playing with an all-court paddle and just want a small bump in offense without losing control. If you're already playing a power style paddle, you might consider switching to one of these for more forgiveness, but this will likely result in a trade-off in offensive ability, mainly pop. If you want a power paddle in the wide body shape, I would consider the YOLO 3S Scorpius paddles or the PaddleTech ESQ paddles instead. Additionally, if high maneuverability is a priority for you, or you want as much pop as possible, then you might look elsewhere. So there you go, I hope it helped. Now I'll kick it over to Aaron, the editor, for his review on their performance.
All right, let's talk about something that's changing how we view power paddles. For those who don't know me, I'm Aaron, the editor, a 4.0 pickleball player, 4.5 if I don't have to switch paddles, 3.5 when it matters. I want to break down the 11SIX24 Power Series from my perspective, how it plays, why it matters, how it slots into the market, and more importantly, what the is dwell time. The most important thing about this paddle is it's not pure power, it's controllable power. News alert, you might be able to hit a drop or a reset or a dink, and your partner might be excited that you didn't pop the ball. Now let's talk about what really separates this paddle in my opinion. It's Gen 3 construction, and more importantly, it's dwell. Dwell time isn't about how long the ball stays on the paddle. To me, dwell time is more how it stays on the paddle. I'll describe the two different kinds of dwell that I'm experiencing that kind of define the difference between the 11SIX24 Power and the Carbon True Foam. There's isolated dwell and connected dwell. I know, more words. Give me a chance to try to explain it to you. The ball sinks into one specific part of the paddle face and compresses in that area. This creates isolated dwell. It's kind of like a baseball mitt. It grabs the ball in one specific area. For this type of dwell, the flex doesn't extend across the paddle. It's very much isolated or concentrated. So isolated / pocketing dwell. All right, so the second type of dwell is something I'm calling connected / platform dwell. So the entire paddle face and core kind of bends and rebounds together, kind of more like a slingshot than it is like an isolated pocketing dwell. In my opinion, this kind of dwell feels a lot more uniform and consistent. I also think it's more common with Gen 3 floating core construction, considering the core is completely detached from the rest of the paddle. The whole core is moving in one unit. And I'm really experiencing this type of dwell when I'm playing with these power series. All right, here's where I think this paddle series deserves a lot more credit, and that's with durability. One of the biggest problems we've seen with Gen 3 construction is early break-ins, core crushing issues. Break-in is not a feature. It's actually a crime to break in. Breaking an entry. But in my opinion, the 11SIX24 Power Series is proving that Gen 3 construction doesn't have to be built with flaws. And while we've crowned the Carbon True Foam as a more durable solution than traditional polypropylene cores, we need to recognize that it took a full year for manufacturers to overcome the flaws of Gen 3 construction, let alone it still being a very real problem on the market. All right, so I love that they released in 3 shapes. I know it's a popular trend, and I think it's really smart. For 11SIX24 super fans and people that are already playing the wide body Monarch / now Pegasus series, the big question I keep hearing, do I switch to the Vapor? And here's my answer. It depends. If you're willing to trade maneuverability and hand speed for a paddle that plays bigger than it is and skews elongated, go Vapor. But if you want a more natural progression that keeps that fast, wide body feel, I would stick with the Pegasus. So yeah, the 11SIX24 Power Series, brings Gen 3 construction that meets it with durability, controllable power, connected dwell, all while staying under $170. For players that want more power without losing forgiveness or touch, I think this makes a lot of sense. But I gotta get back to editing, so let me throw it back to Braden. Braden?
Lastly, these are priced for only $170 before discount, so it's a really good deal when you look at the value and performance you get from these paddles. 11SIX24 has always been of the viewpoint of providing quality paddles at a more affordable price, and they continue to do that with their Power Series. Got to be careful what I say here. My pre-reading routine. You're just gonna meme me.
Oh no, I was standing in front of the camera. Oh, that's good. I swear I was.